Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we're the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we
This
don't.
is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
Search and rescue operations are ongoing after a passenger ferry carrying more than 300 people capsized near the island province of Basilan.
Filipino crew members were reportedly rescued by the China Coast Guard after their cargo vessel sank off the coast of Pangasinan.
The Senate is back in session today, January 26, with lawmakers set to take up several priority measures for final approval and debate.
Octa research found that wage and salary increases were the top national concern among adult Filipinos in last quarter of 2025.
First in the news, the Senate is set to resume regular session today, January 26, with several priority measures lined up for final approval and debate. Senate Majority Leader Juan Miguel Zubiri said the chamber has a full calendar, including bills up for third and final reading, such as the Classroom Building Acceleration Program and health measures for lupus patients, senior citizens, and indigent persons with disabilities. Also up for amendments is a bill creating the Philippine Geriatric Center, while other measures being readied for sponsorship include active transport, safe pathways, Bank Secrecy Act amendments, and regulation of debt collection practices.
Let's get the latest from the Senate. We have Mobile Journal Merimon Reyes reporting live on the ground. Merimon, what's the latest there?
Good morning, Angela, Angelo. So far ngayon, habang hinihintay natin yung resumption ng regular session dito sa Senado around 3 o'clock in the afternoon later, ngayon ay nagpapatuloy ang pagdinig naman ng Committee on Agriculture na tinatalakay ni na Committee Chair Senator Kiko Pangilinan kasama si Senator Raffy Tulfo yung possibility ng pagpapatibay pa ng sektor na ito, especially at the grassroots level. Ang napansin kasi nilang issue dito, marami daw na mga programa ang nasusubukan, especially ng mga estudyante na related sa agriculture, pero pagdating daw ng oras na nais nilang pasukin talaga yung industriya o yung sektor, nagkakaroon ng problema sa access dito. At kaya na-bring up din kanina yung possibility ng pagpapatibay sa mga OJT, yung mga programa at the grassroots level, sabihin, papababain pa nila, mas makaka-access pa o ma-approach pa yung mga may nais na pasukin yung agriculture sector sa pamamagitan ng iba't ibang inisyatibo ng pamahalaan. Pero so far ngayon, ang inaantabayanan din natin mamayang hapon ay yung session. Wala pang nabibigay na agenda nila, pero isa sa mga tututukan nila is yung mga priority bills na kailangan na nilang, pending na siya for final reading. Pagpapirma kay Pangulong Bongbong Marcos, kasama na rin dyan yung pagbubuo ng independent commission, ng People's Commission na layo nito na kung sakali man na mawala ang ICI, ito na yung magiging matibay na fact-finding or investigating body na tututukan hindi lang yung mga maanumalyang infra projects, kundi kahit na naka-questionable dito sa pamahalaan.
Okay. Meron kasama rin daw sa kanilang agenda ang, of course, ang anti-political dynasty. And ano pa ba? Yung party list reform.
Kasama na rin dyan yung Classroom Building Acceleration Program or CAP. Ito yung Senate Bill 1482. Ito yung nag-authorize din sa mga LGU tsaka civil society organizations na sila na yung mag-undertake ng construction ng mga classroom. Ito yung bahagi na since naging education budget, malaki, trilyon ang nakuhang pondo ng education sector. Ito yung isa sa mga tututukan nila para yung pagdating sa pagpapatayo ng mga classroom, hindi na kailangan galing lang sa DPWH yung pinakapagpapagawa nito. Pwede na rin ng mga LGUs, pwede na rin daw mag-partner din sa NGOs o kaya naman mga CSOs. Yung anti-political dynasty rin, marami rin kasi mga bersyon ang nakafile dito. Meron from Senator Risa, meron from SP Soto. Kaya ang titingnan natin ngayon yung magiging consolidated version kung magkakaroon man at anong mga question ang ma-raise ng mga senador. Yung ilan kasi sa mga nabanggit nila SP Soto, ang importante daw dito ma-define ano ba ang matatawag na political dynasty at what level ng consanguinity, hanggang sa kamag-anak lang ba, sa immediate family lang ba, sa mga pinsan ba. Yun yung isa sa mga plano nilang linawin ngayong pagbabalik ng sesyon.
Pero kasi may mga certain senators na parang may kanya-kanyang definition sila ng anti-political dynasty, no? Which version are they inclined to take up? Kasi sa Congress, I understand yung may isang definition nila about fourth degree ata of consanguinity eh. Diyan ba sa Senado, anong pinapaboran nila?
So far, wala pa. Kasi, for example, kay Senator Bam Aquino, meron siyang sariling bersyon. Sa Senator Risa, may sarili siyang bersyon. Yung kay Senator Bam, umaabot sa mga pinsan, yung consanguinity nitong mga anti-political dynasty. So, yan yung isa sa mga titingnan natin. Kasi nila-line up din siya kung ano yung mga bills na isasalang for interpellation.
Okay.
Though ngayon kasi wala pang nabibigay yung secretariat ng Senado, kaya yun yung aantabayanan natin mamayang hapon. Pero for sure, yan yung isa sa pinaka maaaring mabigyan ng oras, yung definition ng political dynasty. At kung sakali man na meron na sila ipapasa na Senate bill, hanggang sa ang consanguinity o level ng relationship sa isang politiko, yung matatawag na pasok sa political dynasty.
Mary Mon, how about yung update sa online gambling? No? Parang nawala sa ere ito.
Ngayon kasi wala rin pang pagdinig yung committee nito on games and amusement. Pero hindi naman nawawala yung patuloy na pagtutok nila Senator Tulfo tungkol dito. And so far kasi sa nakikita rin ngayon ng committee or ng Senado, yung huling nakuha natin bago yung nagkaroon ng adjournment ng mga session, tuloy-tuloy pa rin naman daw yung kanilang pag-iimbestiga, especially sa mga illegal na mga gambling platform, gambling website. Ang nasabi rin naman dito ng PAGCOR, marami na rin daw silang na-flag down na mga illegal. Kaya ngayon, tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung kanilang mga efforts para masiguro na merong responsible playing and as much as possible, matugis na itong mga illegal na mga plataforma.
Well, it seems that the Senate is really busy, doon sa mga kanilang legislative agenda. But I was wondering if they are also ready just in case umusad yung impeachment complaint laban sa Pangulo mula sa Kongreso, and if ever maglabas ng ruling ang Supreme Court doon sa motion for reconsideration against naman sa on the impeachment complaint against VP Sara.
Angela, ang nasabi dito, common yung sentiment ni Senator J.B. Ejercito at ni Senator Risa Hontiveros. Hindi raw magandang tignan at ang international scale or at a diplomatic scale na yung dalawang top or highest official ng pamahalaan ng Pilipinas, merong impending na impeachment. Well, kay Pangulong Bongbong Marcos, meron na mga nakafile. By February, first week ng February, merong impending impeachment naman laban sa VP. Pero ang sinasabi nila dito, kung ano man ang mangyari, constitutional duty tungkulin nila bilang senator judges, bilang impeachment court na patungkulan at na i-process itong pinaka-impeachment. Yun nga lang, ang sabi dito ni Senator J.B. Ejercito, bukod dito, mas maganda rin daw sanang may i-showcase ang bansa na may ginagawa raw sila para maitama itong mga pagkakamali. But then again, kung malipat na dito yung pinaka-impeachment, for example, sa case ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos, ang sabi ni Senator Risa Hontiveros, tulad ng sinabi raw ni Senate President Tito Soto, they will proceed forthwith. Hindi nga lang pa na pag-uusapan yung possibility, pero na-recognize or in-acknowledge ni Senator Risa yung possibility na dalawang impeachment ang ipaprocess nila dito sa Senado. Kabilang na dyan itong impending impeachment laban kay VP Sara.
And kamusta pala, kailan ang resumption ng Senate Blue Ribbon Committee regarding the hearing sa Anomalous Flood Control Project? And base nga sa report, the minority bloc is standing by the minority report that they have given regarding this investigation. So ano mangyayari dito kung sinasabi naman ni Senator Tito Soto, hindi naman daw na ibibigay sa kanila?
Yung pinaka-minority report na tinatawag ng Menorya, yung pinrepresent nila Senator Amy Marcos, Senator Rodante Marcoleta, ang sabi dito ni SP Soto, nung December daw, nung dinala sa kanya opisina, finorward nila ito sa Blue Ribbon Committee. Kasi pagdating sa pagpoproseso ng mga report, wala pang matatawag na minority report hanggat hindi pa naglalabas ng committee report yung mother committee. On this case, ito yung Senate Blue Ribbon Committee. Kaya sabi ni SP Soto, pieces of paper or piece of paper pa lang daw talaga itong report. Kaya ang mangyayari, ang inaantabayanan natin, wala pa kasing schedule ang Blue Ribbon Committee. Though may nabanggit si Senator Erwin Tulfo, Vice Chair ng Blue Ribbon, na parang sa pagkakaalaman, alam niya, parang may ilalabas na muna yatang report ang Blue Ribbon. So hindi pa siya siguro kung magkakaroon ng susunod na pagdinig or kung committee report na lang ba hihinto. Pero once na lumabas yung committee report, doon maaaring magkaroon na ng buhay itong minority report from the minority unless magkakaroon ng kalendaryo na matatake up sa session itong kanilang mga observation sa ginawang pagdinig ng Blue Ribbon.
Well, may tanong.
No.
Lastly, Mary Mon, we had Senator J.V. Ejercito over last Friday and we talked about yung kanyang ethics complaint no, na inihain against him. Siya yung mismong chair ng ethics complaint. Ang sinasabi niya, hindi pa daw constituted no, ang ethics committee until now. So, just to give an idea yung ating mga kapatid na nanonood sa atin, kailan ba if ever, mabuo itong ethics committee para madinggin na no, o dinggin na yung mga ethics complaint. Kasama na rin dyan, of course, kung may maghain tungkol sa pagiging absent ni Senator Bato de la Rosa for 2 months already?
Angela, kasama pa dyan is yung parang meron ding ethics complaint against Senator JV patungkol sa hindi pagbibigay action agad. Doon naman sa mga ethics complaint laban sa ilang mga senador, kabilang na dyan si former Senate President Cheese Escudero. Ang nasabi rin kasi dito ni Senator JV, hindi pa constituted yung committee, hindi rin para kumpleto yung mga miyembro nito. Kaya maaaring ngayon sa pagbabalik ng sesyon, magkaroon na ng pagkukumpleto nito at makapag-start na talaga yung pagproseso ng komite. Ang sinabi rin ni Senator JV, meron din daw siya mga personal na medical na commitments, mga issues na kailangan munang tugunan at bigyan ng oras last year. Pero ang tinitingnan niya talaga dito, hindi pa naman formally constituted yung committee, pero since bumabalik na ngayon ang session, maaring isa na to sa mga rorolyo, mabuo na talaga, and then maproseso na nila lahat ng mga nakabinbin na ethics complaint.
All right, thank you, Mobile Journal Mary Mon Reyes, reporting from the Senate.
Now, Senator Rodante Marcoleta stood by the minority report on the flood control scandal, saying it was created to serve the public interest. Here is the report.
Senator Rodante Marcoleta said that the minority bloc issued a report to push the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee to release at least a partial version of its findings on the flood control scandal hearings. He urged Senator Ping Lacson, who chairs the committee, to read the minority report first before dismissing it as a trash.
Di man lang niya binasa yung report. How can you even make a judgment like that? Wala namang ganunan. Wala kaming ibang motibo doon kung hindi ang kapakanan ng taong bayan makakita man lang kung anong nangyari na so far. Hindi namin pinipilit na yun ay kanilang i-adapt. Sinasabi lang namin, tingnan ninyo. Baka naman may mapulot kayo dito. Baka naman makatulong ito.
Marcoleta stressed that the Blue Ribbon Committee should base its investigation on solid and verifiable evidence. The senator also denied allegations that he was acting as a lawyer for the Discayas, who are among the key personalities linked to the flood control controversy. Marcoleta said he was merely raising questions about restitution, which he claimed is being used as a supposed requirement for admission into the Witness Protection Program. He accused the Department of Justice of using restitution to restrict and selectively determine who would be accepted into the WPP.
I'm questioning the restitution because in the process of applying for WPP, restitution is not one of the requirements. Pinipilit nila yon para makapamili sila kung sinong mag-a-apply.
Despite these concerns, Marcoleta believes the majority and minority can still resolve their differences.
Sa akin palagay, madali naman yun eh. Magkaintindihan lamang kami kung saan patungo ba, ano ba yung direksyon ng pagdinig na yan. Hindi ba pinag-uusapan natin, makita natin ang utak?
At least 13 people have died and more than 100 remain missing after the Roro vessel MV Trisha Kirstin 3 encountered problems while en route to Jolo, Sulu. The incident prompted an immediate rescue operation led by the Coast Guard Southwestern Mindanao. Authorities reported that over 200 passengers have been rescued so far. Search and rescue efforts are ongoing as teams continue to look for the remaining passengers believed to be on board.
Filipino crew members were rescued by the China Coast Guard after their cargo vessel sank off Pangasinan. Here is the report.
On Friday, the China Coast Guard worked out together in rescuing 17 crew members of the sunken MV Devon Bay. At its last recorded position, the cargo vessel was about 262 kilometers west of Sabangan Point, Agno Bay in Pangasinan. In a video released by the China Coast Guard, their personnel can be seen jumping into the sea to pull the Filipino crew members to safety. They even carried this Filipino crew member who appeared exhausted and weak from fatigue. The rescued Filipinos were also brought inside the cabin of the CCG vessel. There, the survivors hugged one another and broke down in tears. The Sunken barge departed from Gutalak, Zamboanga del Norte and was headed to Guangdong, China to deliver a cargo of iron. According to the Philippine Coast Guard, 15 were rescued by the China Coast Guard, while 2 were confirmed dead. Search operations are still underway for 4 passengers of the cargo vessel.
Ito pong China Coast Guard vessel is like 35 nautical miles away from the distress location. So they were able to conduct the rescue mission. And based naman po sa ating international law, Sir Rainiel, every state has a moral obligation naman po to render people in distress.
The Philippine Coast Guard also expressed its gratitude for the actions of the China Coast Guard.
So the Philippine Coast Guard really appreciate po yung effort ng China Coast Guard in rescuing yung ating mga nationals po.
17 crew members from the capsized cargo ship have been turned over by the Chinese Coast Guard to the Philippine Coast Guard. The transfer took place 168 nautical miles off the coast of Tambobong, Pangasinan. Meanwhile, the BRP Teresa Magbanua has conducted radio communication to speed up the search for the 4 missing Filipinos.
Joining us now is PCG spokesperson Captain Noemi Cayabyab. Good morning po, Captain. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, good morning po, Ma'am Angela and Sir Angelo, at maraming salamat po sa oportunidad na umaga.
Alright, hingi lang po kami ng update regarding this issue. Kamusta po at nasaan po ngayon yung mga Filipino seafarers?
Yes, as to MV Devon Bay, kanina po ay dumating na po itong 15 survivors and 2 bodies, and we turned them over sa Department of Migrant Workers for the appropriate disposition po.
Okay, so just for the details lang, kailan po nangyari yung insidente at ilang araw po or ilang oras po nasa kustodiya po ng CCG ito mga Filipinos po natin na naaksidente?
Well, itong insidente po ng MV Devon Bay ay reported to us noong January 22, 10:30 po yan ng gabi. So immediately upon receipt po yan, we deploy our 44-meter vessel. However, Ma'am Angela, sobrang lakas po ng current at ang taas ng alon that time. That's why the Philippine Coast Guard conducted radio broadcast. So lahat po ng mga barko or vessel transiting in the area, we requested them to be vigilant and render assistance as necessary po. And that time, nagkataon po na itong Coast Guard vessel, na Coast Guard vessel is like 35 nautical miles away from the distressed vessel. So nakapag-render po kaagad sila ng response at nakapag-rescue po na itong mga ating mga crew. So they were able to rescue 17 survivors at that time. However, ngayon po, nung pag-transfer to sa atin, it's 15 survivors and 2 bodies po.
So, Captain, are we still searching for missing or all accounted for na?
Yes, we are still searching, Sir Angelo, for more missing crew po. At andun pa rin po yung ating barko sa area at patuloy po ang sinasagawa rin nating aerial surveillance.
Is there a possibility based on conditions, Captain, na itong mga missing pa ay buhay pa?
Meron po tayong mga previous stories, Sir Angelo, kahit 1 week, minsan 2 weeks, buhay pa rin po na nare-recover po natin.
Okay.
So, the Philippine Coast Guard is really hopeful na makita pa rin po itong ating hinahanap na mga missing crew.
And para lang po sa context ng ating mga kapatid na nanonood ngayon, ano po ba itong MV Devon Bay? What was the reason? Bakit po sila nandun? Saan po sila dapat papunta? What was the mission of yung kanilang pag-sail doon?
Well, based on the interview po sa itong crew, itong rescued crew po natin, they departed sa Zamboanga del Sur on January 20. En route po yan, papuntang China. And ang kargamento po nila is nickel ore. So the vessel was carrying 55,000 tons of nickel ore. At based po sa ating interview, nagkaroon po ng liquefaction po yung moisture ng cargo that caused the shifting of the weight to the left side of the ship. Yan po yung unang report sa atin. Nagkaroon po ng pagtagilid ng barko sa kaliwang bahagi. So, at that time po, the weather is not good. Maalon po talaga nung time na yan at medyo malakas po yung current. So, that caused po yung listing and then subsequent po itong capsize. Pero ito pong statement po na ito, again, there is just an initial suspicion po, but we do not have the conclusive data yet and we are yet to conduct for the appropriate investigation Ngayon po, Ma'am Anja, nakatutok pa rin po ang Philippine Coast Guard kasama po yung iba't ibang ahensya sa pagsasagawa po ng search and rescue mission.
Well, habang po ginagawa po yung search and rescue operation, meron pa po ba tayong ibang mga nakikitang investigation? Have we informed the owner of this ship? Nakikita po ba natin meron silang pananagutan at this point?
We are in constant coordination po with the shipping company. Simula pa po yan yung nai-report sa atin. Itong insidente na ito. So we will be checking po, ongoing naman po ang ating sinasagawa rin ng investigation. But for the meantime po, nakatutok po lahat tayo ngayon sa search and rescue mission po para mahanap pa po yung 4.
And at this point naman, nakikita natin, legal naman po yung mission nila doon sa area na yon going to China.
Yes, tama po kayo.
And yung dalawa po na nasa way, unfortunately, ito po ay naibiyahe na po ba? Na-inform na yung kani-kanila mga pamilya?
Yes, sa pag-inform po ng mga families or relatives, ito po ay sa shipping company na po. So, na-transfer na rin po at na-turn over na rin po sila kaya sa isang designated po na funeral service na itong shipping company.
Alright, ay, go ahead.
And kamusta na po, when this happened, no, did the Chinese Coast Guard immediately coordinate with the Philippine Coast Guard? Kasi medyo maganda yung ganito na may nagkaroon ng tulungan, ay kaya naman pala sa West Philippine Sea. Pero is this something that is normal na mag-rescue within our area?
Well, una-una, Sir Angelo, pagdating po sa search and rescue, we have, all the states have a moral obligation based po yan sa United Conventions Law of the Sea. So, any state, regardless of its jurisdiction, even yung nationalities po, they have the obligation to render people aid to people in distress po. At naging coordination naman po natin dito, at the time that we receive the information is through the Maritime Rescue Coordinating Center. And that is in accordance, Sir Angela, po sa International Aeronautical and Maritime Search and Rescue po. So, ibig sabihin po niyan, ang Philippine Coast Guard is the designated Maritime Rescue Coordinating Center in Manila. And ang ating counterpart po that time at yan po ang ating ginagawang mekanismo is yung Hong Kong Rescue Coordinating Center. So lahat po ng koordinasyon hanggang sa pag-transfer po netong mga survivors po is through that mechanism. And siguro, Sir Angelo, if I could also just highlight yung heroism din po netong kapitan, netong MV Devon Bay. Kasi based po sa statement po ng mga crew ay talagang hindi rin po iniwan nitong kapitan. Itong barko na to hanggang sa makikita po yan, safe po at disembark po itong mga crew. So again, ang ginawa po nitong kapitan is pagpapakilala lang po kung ano po ang karakter ng isang Pilipinong marinero po.
Well, that's a good story to hear, Captain. No? Also, based sa accounts, Captain, ng mga survivors, were they treated well naman by the Chinese Coast Guard?
Yes, opo. Yun naman po ang natanggapin natin po na kwento sa mga survivor. Upon po ng pagka-rescue sa kanila, ay binigyan po sila ng damit, ng pagkain, at even yung medical attention po. So, ang naging barrier lang daw po that time is only the language barrier. Pero lahat po nung attention at pag-assist po sa ating mga kababayan ay naibigay po ng China Coast Guard.
Yung captain po na inyong kinukwento, Captain, ay kasama naman po siya doon sa mga na-rescue?
Yes, tama po. Siya po ang ating kakwentuhan, yung na-rescue po. Out of 15, siya po yung ating kakwentuhan.
And of course, ano po ba yung pagkakakailanlan nitong CCG na or yung Chinese Coast Guard na nagligtas po dito sa ating mga Filipino crew members? Ano pong number ng ship nila?
Well, China Coast Guard vessel 3306 and China Coast Guard vessel 2307. Dalawang barko po ito.
Dalawa, okay.
Ma'am Angela. Opo.
And of course, paano po ba yung magiging proseso po mula po sa inyo, sa inyong pag-search and rescue ng mga survivor po natin? Saan po natin sila ito turn over after?
Kaninang umaga po, kasama rin po ang Department of Migrant Workers at saka OWA. After po magkaroon po ng konting medical check-up dito sa ating mga survivors before po sila i-transfer o i-turn over sa DMW po. So yan po ang naging proseso po natin kaninang umaga.
Well, Captain, taking this opportunity to ask you na rin po an update regarding po dito sa ferry na lumubog naman po sa may Basilan. So far, what do we know so far about this?
Yes, ito pong MV Tricia Kirstine 3 ay reported po sa ating distress kaninang madaling araw, so 1:50 a.m. So meron po tayong dalawang sea marshals on board at sila po ang nagbigay sa atin ng distress report na ito nga pong barko na ito ay nagkakaroon po ng distress. So immediately po nagkaroon naman po tayo ng deployment ng ating mga barko kasama po ng iba't ibang ahensya. However, as we speak po ngayon, Ma'am Angela, may mga reported na rin po tayong casualty. Although we are still validating po itong data na ito dahil iba't ibang ahensya po kasi ang tumugon. No? So, yung iba po mga survivors ay napunta po sa ibang mga vessels. So, we are still consolidating and meron din po tayong mga na-report na mga casualties. Again, we will be releasing an official statement na lang po. Once verified na po itong report po na nakuha natin.
Alright. So ano po ba yung naging saan po ba galing itong MV Trista Kirstine? Saan po sila papunta? Baka can you give us a background story on this po?
Yes, ito pong MV Tricia Kirstine 3 ay nanggaling po ng Zamboanga kagabi, 9:20 p.m. at papunta po ng Hulu. However, yun nga po, alas 2 ng madaling araw at area ng Balok-Balok Island sa may Basilan. Yun po, based po sa ibang testimony ay medyo maalon po yung area na yon. However, same as with other incident po, we will be conducting a maritime casualty investigation po to determine what is really the cause of this incident.
So far wala pa talaga tayo mga confirmed details. Pero ilan po ba ulit, para lang po concrete po yung details po natin ngayon as of now, initially, ilan po yung nawawala, ilan po yung na-rescue, ilan po yung confirmed dead?
Yes. Again, this will be validated po, no, itong mga numbers na ito. So, survivors po natin is 316, 28 po ang hinahanap pa po natin. And then, initially, may reported pong 15 casualties. So, again, this will be subjected for validation po.
And so far din po, wala pa po tayo talagang mga mabigay na impormasyon sa kung bakit po talaga ito lumubog, meron po bang kasalanan yung, kumbaga, may sira po ba yung barko, etc. Wala pa po tayong ganong mga initial investigation.
Ngayon po, we believe kasi, Ma'am Angela, that time is really of the essence pag ganito mga search and rescue. So, nakakoncentrate po muna tayo sa ating sinasagawang rescue effort ngayon. But definitely, all these questions and lahat po ng mga information na naging cause po ng incident, ito ay magiging part po talaga ng investigation po natin.
And lastly, nasaan po ngayon yung mga confirmed survivors, Captain?
Yes, yes, meron po nadala sa Basilan, meron din po sa area ng Zamboanga dahil base po yan doon sa mga asset po na nag-respond. So, nahati po sa iba't ibang area kaya medyo nahihirapan po tayo sa pag-consolidate ngayon ng mga information based doon sa mga reported na mga survivors po natin. So please give us time, Ma'am Angela. Definitely within the day, we could finalize it. And hoping na makita po natin lahat yung mga hinahanap po natin. Oo
nga po. Kumustahin ko na rin po yung mga nagre-rescue, yung ating mga tauhan sa PCG ngayon, yung mga challenges po nila habang sila po ay nagko-conduct po ngayon ng search and rescue operations.
Well, ang nakakita na po talaga natin challenges kasi ito naman po ay kasama po ang iba't ibang ahensya. Pagdating naman po sa resources ay meron po tayo ngayon kasama po yung pagpapalipad ng ating aircraft. Ang nakikita lang po talaga nating challenge itong ngayong panahon ito is yung adon po talaga, yung sea condition. So that limits us, Ma'am Angela, po talaga na mas mapabilis po ito pagsasagawa po ng mga search and rescue efforts po natin. But as to the resources, we have various agencies and even mga volunteers po na mga commercial, even yung mga bangka po tumutulong po sa atin para gawin po itong search and rescue efforts po natin.
Yan. Hopefully, we can talk to you po again regarding this para po dun sa mga iba pong update sa investigation po ninyo.
Alright, thank you for that.
Anytime po, Ma'am Angela.
Thank you for that, PCG spokesperson Captain Naomi Cayabyab.
We'll be back with more stories after the break here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Improving or increasing workers' wages and salaries emerged as the top national concern among adult Filipinos in the fourth quarter of 2025, according to Okta Research. In its latest Tugon ng Masa survey, 45% of respondents said wage increases should be an urgent priority for the Marcos administration. Other major concerns included controlling price increases at 41%, access to affordable food at 30%, fighting graft and corruption at 29%, and providing free quality education at 28%. The survey was conducted December 3 to 11, 2025 among 1,200 adults nationwide.
Now, to talk more about this recent survey, we have Okta Research Fellow Dr. Guido David. Doc, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Nice to see you again.
Yes, nice to see you again. Good morning, Angela and Diego, and to our viewers and listeners.
Doc, yung survey nyo is very revealing, no? Kasi, I mean, we've been talking the past year, and sabi natin, despite of all the corruption, mukhang what's closest to the Filipinos' heart and gut pa rin is yung, salaries and food, no? Is this something that surprised you, or you expected it?
It's not surprising, although corruption has become one of the key concerns for our Filipino kababayans. It's still closest to our heart, yung personal needs natin, because if we don't have anything to eat, of course, that's the first thing we think of. If we can't afford food or our utilities, then that's going to be our topmost concern. And yung controlling the increase in prices of basic goods and services.
Yes.
It used to be the top concern. Noong December 2023, it was at 73%. It was the highest at that time because inflation was very rapid at that time. Pero ngayon, it's down to 41%. So it's been steadily decreasing. The reason is, it's down now to number 2 concern. It's still one of the top concerns. But the reason is that inflation has already been controlled. It's at 1.8%, which is a healthy inflation rate. It will never be zero or negative because economic growth is still important. So but the increase in prices of goods and services it has basically stayed fairly low. Ang problem na siguro is because wages have not increased that much. Although we do have seen increase in wages. It's at 695 per day, yung minimum wage. And I also heard recently, but it's just like last week na they increased the prices of or the salaries of the kasambahay. The minimum wage went up from 7,800. So these will help. But at the time of the survey, December, perhaps yung mga kababayan natin, for them, their salaries are still not sufficient to pay for their basic needs like food.
Well, how should our policymakers interpret these results in planning economic or social reforms?
Well, the surveys meant to guide policy naman talaga. And me personally, I like these kinds of surveys that will help, are designed to help the Filipino public. I mean, political surveys, we can't help, we have to do that. Pero what this tells us, what this guides us to do, is to really focus on the needs of the everyday Filipino. They have spoken. Their needs are not just affordable food, which we have addressed already, because inflation has been managed, and we have seen prices of rice as low as 20 pesos. But we also need to address the compensation for our workers, the salaries of workers. Yung everyday Filipino who's kumakayod, naghahanap buhay, and they're earning 700 pesos per day. And when you compute that with a normal week rate, that comes out around 15,000 pesos per month. Is that sufficient? Yung survey din namin on poverty showed that the typical household needs about 10,000 pesos per month for food. So kung 10,000 for food, tapos 15,000 lang sweldo mo, then,
Yeah.
sagad-sagad lang yan, sagad-sagaran. What about your rent, your other needs, yung transportation, schooling pa kung may mga anak sila.
Itong survey nyo, Doc, where was this conducted? Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao ba to?
Yes, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. This is one of those probes now we have been monitoring since 2021 pa. So we do it every quarter because this is really important for the Filipinos. And one thing I noticed when we break it down, sa Metro Manila, the top concern is still the increase in prices of basic services, 47%. Pero in Metro Manila, the number 2 concern is fighting graft and corruption.
Okay.
43%. And the number 3 yung salaries of workers, 41%. Whereas sa Mindanao naman, number 1 is 42% is the salaries of workers. Pero yung corruption, it's way down. It's only 17%. So I'm not sure why corruption is not as big of a concern there. But it's different according to region. Maybe because they have other more pressing concerns in Mindanao. In other places naman, medyo mataas yung concern for corruption. Like in Visayas, it's 32%. And in Balance Luzon, it's 30%.
So parang pwede mong masabi na pagdating sa usapin ng korupsyon, mas aktibo ang mga nasa Luzon at Visayas as compared to the Mindanaoans. Pwedeng ganun di ba?
Yes, and sa Mindanao, they're more concerned about affordable food, like 38%.
Oo.
And
then
prices.
Right. And itong survey na to, maaari itong ibangga doon sa nakita natin ng mga survey in the past weeks tungkol naman sa administration. So makikita mo yung dissatisfaction nila, kaya merong pagbaba sa trust survey, trust percentage ng Pangulo at ng administrasyon na to because hindi natutugunan itong salary, 'di ba, yung presyo ng bilihin, gasolina, etc.
Actually, those are good insights, Angela and Diego. Na yung iba-ibang surveys, even without a focus group discussion, we can just compare them and i-align natin. Kasi syempre, if people are satisfied with the basic needs nila, then they would give a higher approval rate sa administration. The administration rating is affected also, not just by corruption, but also yung mga more pressing needs, as you mentioned, like yung salaries of workers and other things. Pero hindi naman, porque mababa sa survey, sa urgent concern does not mean that it's not a concern.
Yeah.
Because for example, protecting the welfare of OFWs is also very important. But it's only 1%. Siguro, maybe because it's not as high of a priority. But it does not mean na kalimutan na natin yung mga OFW or yung other factors dito. But siguro mas pressing need lang yung salaries of workers. And I'm surprised. Right now, we're seeing number 5, providing free quality education.
That's right.
Considering we already have free, public school education, but siguro, of course, we can't help it. Yung mga private universities and colleges, they charge a premium because they have to stay in business. Education is now become more of a topic for the Filipinos.
Pero Doc, looking at yung mga numbers, although iba-iba ang sinasabi ng survey regards to yung mga wants and needs ng mga ating kababayan, but what's interesting to see is the underlying cause. Mukhang they're all economic in nature because most of them are interlocked in such a way na spending power ang nagiging problema. I know hindi kaya tugunan to lahat ng problema ng gobyerno, no? But do you think they just resolve one or the other? A lot of these numbers would improve. Like if you cannot raise the salary significantly, but you significantly lower the prices, your spending power increases. So baka tumaas ang satisfaction.
Right, and yung economic indicators are all interconnected, and even for me, interconnected din yan with the education.
That's
Kasi
right.
If people are educated, then they will get better jobs. Then the better jobs means na they will be able to afford their cost of living. I mean, of course, pag compare natin sarili natin sa first world countries, in first world countries, even the rank and file are making enough to support themselves, di ba? So, because malayo yung economic factors. But, also related sa economic indicators, na hindi ko na-mention, number 6 is reducing poverty. Although it's a bit lower, pero sa Mindanao, it's at 30%. So that means na, we have to look at and address these concerns. Ano bang nangyayari I mean, I don't have eyes on the ground sa Mindanao, so what's happening in Mindanao? And maybe that's why the administration, usually pag approval ratings, they're more affected by numbers sa Mindanao. Hindi rin siya even eh.
Yeah.
So he might have better numbers sa Metro Manila, sa Balas, Luzon, but he might not have as good numbers in places like Mindanao na mas lower because people are feeling the economic hardships there. The poverty, the education is a concern, affordable food, and salaries. So you're right. The government should focus on programs, which I think they are naman. And to be fair, these problems will not be solved overnight. We need long-term solutions. Kasama na dyan yung education, yung nutrition, access to affordable food, food security natin. Before we become, a middle or upper middle income nation. And I think at some point, we really have to invest in good things. But of course, kasama rin dyan talaga yung corruption because if most of the taxpayers' pesos are going to waste, hindi na address yung mga concerns natin, even infrastructure concerns, hindi na gagawin. I mean, we can't have tourism kung hindi maganda yung infrastructure natin.
Right.
They all go hand in hand. They're all related. And we have to provide really concrete, solid solutions. Yung pagbigay ng ayuda, for example, I mean, I'm not against it, but it's not a long-term solution. We should have long-term solutions that will help raise the standard of living of our kababayans, reduce poverty, give more education, and then they will be more productive. They will have better jobs and they can help the country. So lahat tayo aangat if we have these long-term solutions.
Parang kumbaga, give a man a fish and then he will eat for a day, but teach him how to fish, he will eat for the rest of his life. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras, Octa Research Fellow Dr. Guido David.
Thank you. Good morning.
Newly deported Russian vlogger Vitaly claimed he had a cell phone while detained in the Philippines, alleging he bribed jail guards and recorded videos inside his cell. But the Bureau of Immigration dismissed his statement as rage bait, saying raids were conducted last year and illegal gadgets were seized, with some personnel relieved. Malacanang also confirmed 3 immigration staff were sacked over alleged special treatment. Interior Secretary John Vic Remulla said charges and even extradition could be pursued if Vitaly is proven to have corrupted officials.
Former President Rodrigo Duterte's lawyers are asking the ICC Appeals Chamber to throw out the case, arguing the court had no authority to open a Philippines investigation in 2021. The defense said the country's withdrawal from the Rome Statute effective March 2019 meant the ICC could no longer exercise jurisdiction. They also insisted a preliminary examination before the withdrawal did not preserve the court's power.
Kakairita tong vlogger na ito.
Akala ko
Pinakawalan ka na nga, hindi ka pa nagbagong buhay, kakalat ka pa ng lagim. Basta for clout.
Expose daw niya
clout
ang
chase, clout bait, rage bait.
Ang tawag doon, expose daw niya ang corruption sa
Go lang.
jail.
Sige, don't go away. We're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
Mayor Ahmad Ampatuan of Sharif Aguac, Maguindanao del Sur escaped unhurt after his 2-vehicle convoy was ambushed Sunday morning in Barangay Poblacion. 2 of his security escorts were wounded but are now in stable condition and undergoing treatment. Authorities said 3 suspected ambushers were killed during a pursuit operation by a joint police-army team with high-powered firearms recovered from their vehicle. The motive behind the attack is still unknown.
Let's get an update from Police Captain Steffi Salangit, officer in charge of the Public Information Office at the Police Regional Office, Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am.
Okay, kamusta po ang kalagayan ni Mayor?
Ma'am, kahapon pa po, as per the update din po doon sa Maguindanao del Norte PPO, completely unharmed po si Mayor and his driver. Nakasama niya po doon sa Land Cruiser na sinasakyan nila when the ambush incident happened. The two wounded security escorts niya po ay nakasakay doon sa follow-up vehicle sa likod nila. Kaya po, sila po yung nakipag-engage doon sa mga suspects that time. Nagkaroon lang po ng maiksing firefight between the suspects and the security escorts where tinamaan po sila sa left side ng kanilang abdomen. Pero yun nga po, sa ngayon po, stable na po ang condition nilang dalawa.
Captain, kasi may RPG ito and I understand this is the third attempt ata on the life of the mayor, no? Connected ba tong all these attacks on the mayor or are these different players?
Yung investigators po natin, we are also looking into possible motives, including political angles, since Mayor Ampatuan po is very active and involved sa mga anti-criminality campaigns sa kanyang municipality. But those information are still under verification as of now po.
Interesting na kasi, Captain, saan sila nakakuha ng RPG ng ganyang ka-high power?
Grabe,
Yan po ang under validation
Okay,
po
sige.
natin yan. But we have information na rin po.
Okay.
Since meron na po tayong itinalaga na SITG to para po mapabilis yung investigation or yung special investigation task group natin and ma-identify po natin yung other possible accomplices nila since yung tatlo po ay natagpuan na po napatay doon sa loob ng alleged escape vehicle na ginamit yung kanilang minivan.
Yun nga po itatanong ko sa inyo, ma'am, no? Since ito pong itong ambushers na to ay namatay po sa pursuit operation, do we know their identities already and yung mga known accomplices nila? Para makita natin from then on kung ano pa yung maaring motibo, no, sa likod nitong ambush na to kay Mayor.
Ngayon po, ma'am, we cannot confirm their identities pa yung tatlo po na namatay, but as the profiling indicates, meron po tayo dito sa isa sa kanila na tatlong namatay ay si alias Raprap. May active warrant of arrest po siya for Comelec gun ban violation, robbery in band, at isa pong kaso niya ng murder.
Pero wala pa po kayo nakikitang known na, kumbaga, mga grupo niya na kasama nitong tatlo na to?
Ma-identify po natin yan, ma'am, once na matapos na po at ma-finalize yung investigation natin sa ating SITG, ma'am.
Alright. Kamusta naman po yung area? Mahigpit po ba yung security doon ngayon dahil doon po sa nangyaring ambush attempt?
Continuous po ang ating anti-criminality efforts dito po sa Police Regional Office, Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. And yung effort po natin sa patuloy na pagkalap ng mga information at papanatilihin po natin yung safety ng community. Kasi mihiling po kami sa public ng full cooperation. Kasi habang isinasagawa po yung investigation para mas mapabilis po natin yung usad ng kaso.
Oo. And kamusta po yung mga residente dyan, especially near the area kung saan nangyari yung ambush attempt? And I was wondering kung magpapatupad po ba ang local authority dyan ng curfew because of what happened?
As for that, ma'am, makikipag-coordinate po muna kami sa LGU ng Sheriff Aguac sa municipality po nila.
So since Mayor is unharmed, siya po ay ngayon ay nasa opisina po ba? Nagtatrabaho? Tuloy lang sa kanyang everyday duty?
Sa information po namin, ma'am, nandun pa rin po siya sa Sheriff Agwak.
Okay, alright. Siguro patuloy po kaming makikipag-ugnayan po sa inyo regarding this issue para po malaman natin kung sino po ang nasa likod nitong, kumbaga, itong ambush na ito, no? O attempted ambush kay Mayor. Pero siya po ba, nag-increase po ba siya ng kanyang security after this incident, si Mayor?
Wala pa pong naibigay na info from Mayor about dyan, ma'am.
Alright, sige, maraming salamat po muli sa inyong oras, Police Captain Steffi Salangit.
Thank you, ma'am.
In sports, San Miguel took a 2-1 lead in the PBA Philippine Cup Finals after edging TNT in Game 3. CJ Perez delivered a decisive performance, scoring 17 of his 20 points in the fourth quarter. His clutch 4-point play and a go-ahead triple in the final 30 seconds turned the game around and gave San Miguel the advantage. Don Trollano supported Perez with 19 points, while Junmar Fajardo finished with 16 points and a massive 27 rebounds. For TNT, Calvin Oftana led the scoring with 25 points, and Brandon Ganuelas Rosser posted a double-double with 15 points and 13 rebounds. Game 4 is scheduled for Wednesday at the Mall of Asia Arena.
Filipino tennis star Alexandra Ayala is set to make her first official WTA appearance on Philippine soil today as she opens her campaign in the inaugural Philippine Women's Open at the Rizal Memorial Tennis Center. A sold-out home crowd is expected to watch a 20-year-old who is seeded second in the WTA 125 tournament face Russia's Alina Charaeva in the first round. Ayala said her main focus is playing at home and highlighting the presence of more Filipino players in the main draw.
A fur mom from Aklan is gaining online attention for turning an often ignored coastal fruit into cute, customizable cat-themed Dangkalan keychains. Mobile journalist Jas Paredes reports.
A certified fur mom from Aklan is making waves online for her creativity, crafting cute and colorful Dangkalan keychains featuring different cat faces, which can also be customized. She was first known as the Meownai of Choco the Meowdle, where she shared the DIY outfits she made for Choco and her other cats. Due to growing interest from netizens, followers encouraged her to create a Facebook page dedicated to Choco, allowing more people to follow their journey online. In 2022, she eventually ventured into making her own handmade crafts.
Nag-first birthday po kasi si Choco, wala po akong mabilhan ng souvenirs na pang pusa talaga. Ang isipan ko yung dangkalan na yan, hindi pa po siya ganun kaano talaga na pusa. Basta dinuwingan ko lang po siya, pinagdikit siya, at saka pinatungan na may abaka. Tapos, nag-isip pa po ako ng pag after ng birthday niya, tuloy-tuloy na po na gumawa na lang kaya ako ng keychain.
Dangkalan, also known as bitaog or palo Maria, is a tree commonly found in coastal areas including Leyes Town. Its fruit is often ignored and stepped on as it is not generally eaten unlike other fruits.
Yung tita ko po kasi gumagawa din ng mga souvenirs, yung bunga naman ng yung mga mangrove at saka yung baon ng nyog. Tapos gumagamit sila ng yung mata is dangkalan. Tapos sabi ko, try ko kayang gumawa ng mga keychain naman na mga pusa.
Leah personally handles the entire process of making each Dangkalan keychain. The fruit is first cleaned and carefully hollowed out by removing its contents. It is then sanded to smoothen the surface before painting.
Gawa po kasi nito, medyo naabot po talaga ng 2 weeks. Halimbawa, 50 pieces yung order niya po. Aabot po siya ng 2 weeks. Basta wala lang pong ulan. Tuloy-tuloy po. Kasi hindi po pwedeng magpintura pag maulan, pag medyo malamig. Kasi yung pintura po, nagda-dry po siya. Kasi acrylic po kasi ang gamit ko.
Each Dangkalan keychain costs 50 pesos, with customized designs offered at the same price. However, Leah is temporarily not accepting orders until March due to the large volume of requests she recently received.
Kasi ako lang po talaga kasi ang gumagawa. Baka hindi ko lahat Tapos, pinahiya naman po ako. Yung itong ginagawa ko po, dapat ngayong January natapos na. Ikaso, nag-December ulan po dito hanggang Ngayon, January, nung nakaraang araw lang po nag-start ng init. Kaya ngayon lang po ako nag-start din ng pagpintura.
For Leia, this creative venture is more than just a source of income. It also helps support her 10 rescued cats who continue to inspire her craft and passion.
Ano ko po talaga is, yung itong ginagawa ko po is, yung lumago po siya, yung talagang yung masustintuhan ko na po talaga lahat ng pangangailangan nila Choco kasi mahal na mahal ko po sila. Gusto ko po silang mas mabigyan po ng magandang buhay.
Kapatid Jazz Paredes, we are One News.
Oh, abangan din pala nila today kasi today i-refile ng Makabayan Block yung kanilang
Refile?
second impeachment. Kasi remember, they went there last week pero wala yung Secretary General. Pero 'di ba according sa rules, dapat i-receive lang naman yun, not necessarily na dapat nandoon yung Secretary General herself to receive the complaint. Pero para daw tapos na yung usapan, punta na sila doon at i-refile nila yung kanilang impeachment complaint. So I don't know doon sa pangatlo, which is the group naman nila, former Congressman na Mike Defensor, kung magpa-file din ulit sila today. Kasi they have to do it before the session starts. 'Di ba? Kasi yung unang impeachment complaint against the President ay naibigay na sa sa
Office of the SecGen. Sorry.
Sa kay
Speaker Boji-D, Speaker
diba? So tingnan
Sa kanya
natin
na.
kung anong mangyayari dyan today. Hopefully, sabi ni Congressman Tino, wala na daw excuses.
Let's see. Okay, pero before I let everyone go, I'd like to leave everyone with a quote, and it goes, some call it ambition, others call it never being satisfied. And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
I am Angelo Castro III. We are One News.
All sides, all the time.